You probably know that feeling. Creating a best of all time list is really difficult, but I just had to do it at some point. So it's finally time to talk about the best indie games of all time, or rather my favorite indie games ever. I'm pretty sure that this list will surprise you, as you won't find some of the all-time fan favorites here. Let us all know your favorite indie games of all time in the comments. Alright, let's go. Viewfinder is the perfect example of how indie games are constantly pushing the boundaries of creativity and originality. Viewfinder is a first-person puzzle game with the unique mechanic that pictures you hold in front of you can be placed into the environment to make it part of it. Puzzles start off simple, but as the game introduces more and more mechanics like the Polaroid camera and the photocopier, the puzzles crank up in difficulty. But don't worry, because there's always a perfect balance between puzzles being mind-bending and kind of obvious at the same time. Yeah, kind of hard to explain. And the best part is that there are multiple solutions to a puzzle, so being creative will be rewarded. That way, overcoming these challenges makes you feel very smart, which is just so satisfying. The otherworldly world design paired with the beautiful soundtrack create one of the most unique atmospheres I've ever seen in a game, and add to an overall special experience. Viewfinder is a brilliant game that is often overlooked, but if you love puzzle games like Portal, you should give this one a try. It's incredible. Moonlighter is by far my favorite roguelite. This beautiful game combines classic action roguelike gameplay with the shopkeeper aspect, and it's a match made in heaven. In this case, roguelite means exploring dungeons, finding valuable loot and fighting tough bosses at night, and selling your rare goods in your shop during the day. With your earned money and materials, you craft better equipment, defeat tougher enemies and get more valuable loot, and repeat this loop. This gameplay is absolutely addictive, and the pacing this results from this is perfect. You are constantly achieving something, like getting richer or crafting new gear. Combat itself is rather simple in its design, but still requires good reflexes and preparation, which makes encounters, bosses especially, full of action and incredibly fun. And the music by David Fenn and the gorgeous pixel art add to an overall fantastic experience that feels cozy and exciting at the same time. When it comes to my favorite kind of games, two game series are at the top of my list: The Legend of Zelda and Dark Souls. Death's Door manages to be inspired by both of them while being something completely different. In this awesome action adventure, you play a crow that works in the afterlife to collect souls. You explore wonderfully designed areas that are an absolute joy to explore, thanks to tons of secrets to find and well-designed puzzles to solve. You meet charming and quirky characters and follow a simple yet effective story that made me think about death and everything that comes with it. Death's Door is a very special game for me because the atmosphere, the music, the level design and the approachable yet difficult combat, everything just works so well together. It all makes sense. You know what else makes sense? Hitting that cute red button if you enjoy videos about indie games, Metroidvanias, JRPGs and more. Playing this game also makes me feel like I'm playing the games I used to play as a kid, while feeling and looking modern. Death's Door is far more than a Zelda-like. It's a masterpiece. Islets is an utterly brilliant Metroidvania for many reasons. One reason is the absolutely perfect movement. I mean, I would even say that Islets has the best movement in the whole genre. That's because every ability you get adds more and more movement options and creates such an addictive fluidity that even just moving around is more fun than a lot of AAA games. But it's also brilliant because some upgrades you can find are inspired by roguelites, giving modifications a certain degree of randomness. That may sound weird at first, but it makes exploration so much fun, as building your character is a thing unique to your playthrough. It's also brilliant because during the story you have to reconnect floating islands, so all the areas that are separated in the beginning form one large interconnected world in the end. And it's also brilliant because the graphics, music and charming characters create an atmosphere so welcoming yet so unsettling at the same time that it's hard not to be sucked in by this in the first couple of minutes. Islets is unique, very confident about it, and therefore so damn good. That's why I won't stop talking about this Metroidvania gem. It's rare that a game makes me say, wow, over and over again, but that's exactly what Sea of Stars did. Is it perfect? No, far from it. The characters are not very well written, let's be honest here, and the story is kinda mid. But man, everything else is just pure joy. What I love most about this game is its level design. All the areas and dungeons are designed so well because there are tons of things to interact with, so it's not just running through a boring corridor. There are secrets to find, puzzles to solve, and there's a certain verticality that makes jumping and climbing around so much fun. Combat with its time button presses may not be new to the genre, but enemy variety, swappable characters, and the many unique abilities kept the combat immensely fun the whole time. And while the story doesn't win awards for the plot itself, it had some insanely cool moments. Emotional, shocking, mind-blowing. Sea of Stars has it all. The pixel art is simply the most beautiful I've ever seen in a game to date, and the music by Eric W. Brown is full of bangers and hits this perfect mark of nostalgia. Sea of Stars is simply amazing, and it holds a very special place in my heart. Just like Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, Blasphemous 2 is better than its predecessor in every single way. The shift to less Souls-like, more Metroidvania was a decision so good that Blasphemous 2 turned out to be one of the best Metroidvanias ever made. The 3 weapons not only work as powerful tools for the brilliant fast-paced and challenging combat, but also for platforming sections and puzzles. That fusion, combined with great movement abilities, create a deeply satisfying exploration. But also, there are so many secrets and items to find, which makes Blasphemous 2 one of the most rewarding Metroidvanias. Combat is absolutely perfect, as enemies have easy to read but sometimes hard to master attack patterns. Bosses especially are designed so well because each of them come with a lot of mechanics to learn and surprise you with attacks, phase changes, and unique battle arenas. And again, you know how important atmosphere is for me, but the atmosphere in this, it's so dark and so uniquely unsettling, but thanks to the music and environmental design, it's also extremely interesting, which sucks you in completely. Blasphemous 2 not only is a perfect example of how to do a perfect sequel, but it's also how to create a brilliant Metroidvania. Speaking of brilliant Metroidvanias, Lone Fungus is absolutely insane. That's because it took a lot of inspiration from Hollow Knight, but made it its own thing. A lot of the platforming sections are inspired by the Path of Pain, but they find the perfect balance between approachable and challenging, which makes them enjoyable for more players and extremely satisfying. There are so many abilities to unlock that are useful in combat as well as for the exploration, which I think, if implemented well, is the perfect way of making a Metroidvania fun. The result is a great feel for exploration on a huge map with a countless amount of secret paths, hidden items, and optional platforming challenges to discover. Exploration is also a joy because the more abilities you get, the more fluid the movement and the more acrobatic the mushroom gets. The combat itself is rather simple, but shines with its deep customization through its emblem system, and even allows things like changing the way you parry. The cherry on top is the super charming and funny dialogue that brings the strange world to life, so if you play this, don't skip the dialogue. Lone Fungus is everything I want from a Metroidvania, and it even became one of my favorites in the genre. I can't stop thinking about this game. Mini Shoot Adventures is a wild mix of different genres, and it works perfectly. It's a twin-stick shooter, but it's also a Zelda-like and a Metroidvania. You control a cute ship and shoot your way through a vast and beautiful world. The twin-stick shooter combat feels insanely good because it's fast, but responsive and fair at the same time. Upgrading your ship is the best thing ever because it evolves from pew pew to it's just so much fun. Of course, that's also because the abilities you unlock in the dungeons, and that's the Zelda part here, add a lot of fantastic movement options. They're what you need for exploration, which is the best part about this game. Not only are there so many hidden items to find, but also optional puzzles to solve, racing minigames, and so much more. For the size of this game, this is packed with content. I mean, seriously, the whole gameplay loop of Mini Shoot Adventures is so addictive that I immediately started a second playthrough on a higher difficulty. Mini Shoot Adventures is a prime example of brilliant game design, as everything is built around avoiding frustration and actually being fun. Honestly, please don't skip this, it's so good. Now, with the last 3 games on this list, it was kinda hard to decide where to put them, but no matter where these games are on my list, they are amongst the best games I've ever played. Chain Echoes is a JRPG developed by a single person, which is mind-blowing on its own, but seeing the quality of this game is unbelievable. The story of Chain Echoes is exciting, emotional, engaging, and definitely one of the most memorable stories I ever experienced. At the same time, the characters are highly likable and the world is full of interesting, beautiful places and deep lore to discover. The turn-based combat system is actually unique for a change. Actions move you back and forth on a gauge that determines how much damage you deal or take. It's simple in concept but requires a good strategy. And since you can have 4 characters in combat that get 1 character each that they can swap with, this combat system just never gets old. Later you can even get in the mech and fight huge monsters. Then there's the addictive reward board, tons of secrets to discover, a masterpiece of a soundtrack composed by Ari Mariano Crew, and beautiful pixel art. This game is an unbelievable JRPG, a love letter to gaming in general, and one of my favorite games of all time. Tunic is a very unique and special game, so unique and special that I always struggle to get even close to describing this well, but I try my best. On the surface, Tunic is an action adventure, and from the looks of it, a lot of people would say it's clearly inspired by Zelda. And that's all true, but it's also so much more than that. Tunic is full of unconventional secrets, which I won't spoil because that's the whole fun of it, but it's more than just paying close attention to the environment and finding hidden paths. I mean, that's all in here too, but it's so cleverly implemented that every secret you uncover ends up with you saying, so that was here all along. The bold decision to not tell the player anything was brilliant. The only guidance you get are the pages you find to piece together an instruction manual. But then again, this isn't like, yeah, go here, find that, and then go there. It's different. Again, I don't want to spoil anything here because it's the best part of the game to figure this out on your own. But those who know. On top of all that, there's a simplistic yet deeply satisfying challenging combat system inspired by Dark Souls, with incredible bosses. Definitely easy to learn, but hard to master. And the OST is far beyond a 10 out of 10, giving us some insane synth sounds combined with beautiful piano melodies. The music and the graphics create an atmosphere that feels so out of this world, yet so captivating, and I personally didn't want to leave. Tunic is a masterpiece, it truly is, and if you just remotely like to have a unique gaming experience, you have to try this game. Take your time with it and you will be rewarded with something really special. My favorite indie game of all time is Crosscode. There are countless reasons for that, so where should I start? Maybe with the incredible engaging story that is so well written, so emotional, surprising, exciting, and full of absolutely epic moments that I quickly became one of my favorite stories ever told. Or maybe I could start with the brilliant action combat system that is equally fast-paced, as it requires precision and strategy because every single enemy has its own mechanic you have to get behind. Not to mention the awesome elemental powers with crazy looking skills. Or maybe I start with the insanely well-designed puzzles that are challenging, creative, and extremely satisfying to solve. I could also start with the lovely characters that bring this beautiful pixel art world to life with their personalities. Or I start with the soundtrack composed by Dennis Akbulut that is filled with references from the games of the SNES and PS1 era, while being something completely unique with its fantastic melodies. No matter where I start to talk about Crosscode, I just need to be aware that eventually I need to stop talking about it, otherwise I would sit here all day. Crosscode is one of the best games ever made, one of my favorite games of all time, and in my opinion, the best indie game ever released. Alright, that's it, my favorite indie games of all time. Let me know in the comments what your favorite indie game is, and hit subscribe if you enjoyed this video and want to see more things like that. Alright, Thanks so much for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.